Howdy everyone, and as promised, this is the first video in my series that is covering sales, operations, and basically how I ran the virtual tour business so you can take yours to the moon if that's your goal. Um, so here's what I'm going to be sharing in this video. I'm going to show an early example of my first sales script that I actually used on my first real round of cold calling for car dealerships. I'll share the books that helped me actually write the scripts, and I'm going to get you the script documents, so if you want to mess with them and use them to write your own sales scripts, you can. I found that I learned best by starting out with a model of someone's work, whittling it down to its most basic parts, and then creating my own new thing. So if that's the way that you guys learn also, this will be perfect for you. Bottom line, this video is going to be a broad view of writing your sales script and preparing to write it. I just want to get something out. I just want to get something out there so that you guys can start working while I get more detailed content around. Because even just having a model script to look at is extremely helpful by itself, even without an explanation. So I figured I owe you that for the lack of uploads. We're gonna be better about that because like now I have like a webcam and everything, so I don't have to blindly use my phone and take 10 minutes to set that up. But anyway, here we go. So I'm going to teach this with the assumption that you already have your company name, value position, and pricing figured out, or at least an idea of it. But I'm going to touch on those in case you need help getting started with that. But I just want to set the expectation now that what I'm teaching in this video is centered around the sales scripting aspect. I can definitely go more in depth in another video with the other topics if people still need help on that. I'll do what I can. So just real quick, touching on the value proposition. It doesn't have to be this big long thing like a mission statement that has to be all woo-woo. It can be anything from like, we make it easy to show off and sell your space. We provide an always open door to sell your spaces. Or something more to the times. I don't want to say the name of the sickness because I guess there's like they detect that or whatever. Centered around that, saying something like, this is a safe and convenient way to show off your space. For really health conscious places or like schools, something like that. Bottom line is that how your value proposition is worded mostly depends on your niche, whether it's real estate, gyms, whatever it is. Its main thing is it should communicate the problem that you're going to solve for them, and I'm sure you've heard that a million times. To touch on pricing, my 3D tour solution, GOCV, already had pricing guidelines, so I just used that. For all spaces, it's a $500 base, and that $500 base covers 2,500 square feet, and then it's $100 per additional 1,000 square feet. For anyone who wanted a 3D tour, we never really ran into problems with people agreeing to that price, even here in Ohio. However, we would do volume discounts if they booked a lot of space or units all at once. Like there was a property manager, they got a really good deal on them. Probably a better deal than I should have given out, but you live and you learn. But like whatever you want to make that volume discount is totally up to you. Just make sure it makes sense with your costs and how much time that you're going to be putting into this to those projects. One metric that I've seen people using is doing a rate per square foot with no base. Like I think the most common one with Matterport that I've seen has been just 10 cents a square foot outright. If you're going to do that, I would have a base amount because it makes your financial planning a little easier, and it also prepares the customer better for the final bill because they have a reference point for where the pricing starts. So they know it's going to cost at least $200, and they're not just kind of gauging it from zero. It's funny how the mind works. Some people are really shocked by it sometimes. Now, pricing for 360 tours, like just the Google Street View tours, was a little trickier because it involves manually mapping the tour nodes and sometimes a lot of hours of editing. I didn't do a whole lot of only 360 projects last year, so I'm probably not the best person to speak on it, but our pricing for just the 360 tours was a $200 base, and then you just kind of gauge how much time it's going to take to capture the pictures, map the nodes, and go from there. That process was always a little arbitrary, and I probably underpriced some of our Google tours, but honestly, the base plus a steady rate per square foot is probably the best way to go. So me talking about that probably wasn't much help, but what I will do is have you be able to either download or view our price sheets and that's probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to figure out a way to have a link in the description that'll let you see it or download it. I'm looking at like an email thing that might work the best. But I'll get it to you. So on to the sales stuff. So the way that I wrote my first script is kind of funny. If you remember the scene at the beginning of The Wolf of Wall Street where they're calling that potential client when Stratton is first getting started. I literally just took that, put my own stuff in, and practiced that because I had nothing, so I had to kind of like figure it out. I started with car dealerships in mind because my first paid job when I started the Google Street View stuff was a car dealership near me that contacted me to do the Google tour for them. So I didn't even sell them that one. They came to me because I was like the one in the area. So, okay, now we're actually going with part of the script. So it sounded something like I would cold call them and say, "Hey, how you doing today?" I go, "Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Is there any way that I could get in touch with your GM?" And then if it's a yeah, I ask for the GM's name if I don't already know it, and then I get connected with them. They pick up. "Hey, Steve, my name's Raphael. How you doing today?" It's great to hear. Now, the reason I called today Steve is because I do virtual tours in 3D and for Google Street View. You might have heard of my company, Dart Frog 3D, and we're revamping the Rich Chevy's virtual tour this week, so it's at the highest quality with the new device we just got. So I'm calling around to other dealerships to see if having that virtual tour of the customer area is something that you see as much value in as they did, and if you've got a minute, I'd like to show and tell you more about it and how it's worked for them so far. Do you got a minute? Now, that's the version that's a little more tailored to sound as natural as possible for me, in line with the kind of person I am, and you can tell I haven't done that script in a while. I can't even find the old script that was basically word for word Jordan Belfort stuff. Like I think I had a whole thing written out. And if you knew me personally, the furthest thing from what you think a sales guy is, like I don't talk like that. So personally, I just have to think of it as acting. Like even recording these YouTube videos, like obviously I'm reading off my computer right now, but I think of it as acting. You know, it makes it a little easier. Now that intro worked most of the time, but the general rule, especially when selling on the phone, and it's pretty obvious, that you want to communicate the most you can with the fewest words as possible while still sounding natural, still sounding like you. I'm going to reference mainly two books that helped me write my scripts. The New Conceptual Selling by Robert B. Miller, Stephen Hyman, and Tad Tuleja. I hope that's how you say it. And also, my keys. Way of the Wolf, Jordan Belfort. So The New Conceptual Selling was written for B2B sales and is ridiculously helpful in the planning and execution of B2B sales. It was really helpful for my virtual tour business in B2B because with the business-to-business stuff, it can be hard to tell if you're talking to the real decision maker, even if you know that person's title. And that book in particular helps you ask the right questions to determine that, so you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting the person you're talking to's time. Way of the Wolf, last I read it, felt like it was more written for B2C. But it's really great at teaching you prospecting, prospecting and qualifying your clients, identifying different types of buyers and non-buyers, and really just spending your selling time efficiently. And of course, the actual sales scripting, the straight line. And I basically combined these books with the way that I operate to create like the sales habits and structures that work the best for me. Most of the things that I've learned about sales came from like both of these books, aside from experience. Because the one I got for a class, the other I got after listening to this podcast. Good stuff. So basically my process is, first thing, you research the hell out of your prospects. 2, pick a goal for your script. Then you write the script, and then you practice the script. So in a business-to-business industry like virtual tours, it kind of sucks because sometimes you have longer sales cycles, which is the amount of time it takes from the first contact to actually getting a deal signed, set up, and paid. You might have to convince multiple people also, unlike in a business-to-consumer industry where you just advertise, sell, they buy, then boom, money. Sometimes, 1 week you have to talk to the marketing manager, then maybe you have to talk to somebody else who makes decisions in that. It's usually not only one person you have to convince or, show your value. But the great thing about B2B is that you can do a lot more preparation for your sales call. So that's why I really liked it, because I like going in with as much info as I could, as I can. So here's what I mean by that. It's good because as long as I have the internet, I can find who I'm supposed to talk to about 70% of the time. And that's a huge advantage because you can ask for the decision maker by name, find out everything you can about them, and basically just go into a sales call locked and loaded with the best possible outcome. So here are the steps for the research phase. For our first example, we'll use the car dealership that I mentioned. So step 1, part 1, go over what you know. So at this point, here's what I know. I know that I've done a Google Street View project for a car dealership in the same city, and they wanted it to enhance their Google listing and get more eyeballs. That was what their marketing manager told me. So now I have something that I can mention. It's known as the Jones effect, keeping up with the Joneses, that kind of stuff. So now I can figure out how to say in a subtle way, your competitor has this, they called me, and you don't have this. If they wanted to make more money with this, do you want to use this to make more money? And step 1, part 2, after that, you find out more information about the individual prospect. So after analyzing the prospect, so like the dealership I hadn't done yet, I looked at their Google Maps listing and website, and I saw that they had no Google Street View virtual tour, no 360 photography, and no virtual tour on the website at all. Or at least like one that you can find by clicking a bunch of links. It's not like it was even hard to find. There was nothing. So especially nowadays, you have to take the time to check, especially after all this stuff happened, because some people do have them now, because some people said, oh, all right, we're going to need this because people can't actually walk in our places. Because if you call them and they already have one front and center, that tells them obviously that you didn't even have the decency to look, you didn't care to look, and you're wasting their time now because you should have known that they weren't a good fit for your services, and you obviously don't value you or their time. So not a good message to send. And also, when I Googled car dealerships in Findlay, these guys were the very first result because they used the Google AdWords, Google's ad product, to show up first. So based off of that, I assumed that they have a general understanding of Google products and that they actually invest into their marketing. So good promising signs. So back to the point that I mentioned earlier, since this is B2B, I can use the website to find out exactly who I need to talk to, or at least make a good guess. So in this case, I think I looked for a staff page, or maybe I think it was around the first page, and boom, it says, Steve, general manager. I was like, all right, that's probably who I need to talk to. So now on to step 2, you pick a goal for your script. So at this point, we know who we have to talk to. We know that we've already done work for one of their local competitors, and we know that they don't have any 360 photography or any kind of virtual tour of their showroom available for public viewing. So even though it's not much, we're much better armed for a sales call than if we went in without knowing anything. So now the first thing you have to do before you even write the first line of the script is that you have to pick a goal for what you want the script to do or the action that you want the decision maker to take. Virtual tours can be tricky, especially the first time over the phone, because unless you have a real lay-down sale, you're likely not going to land a $4,000 contract on the first phone call just right then and there. My goal for calling that car dealership was to get them an estimate with an on-site visit. So that does a couple of things. It gets me physically in front of their face so they actually know who I am. They have something tangible that they can make a yes or no decision on, or something to give to a higher up at minimum. So once you have that goal for the call, you have your North Star now. That's what you have to keep in your mind. So this sort of is a reference to the concept of the straight line from Way of the Wolf. So basically, no matter how far you stray from your objective during the sales call, like in side conversations, whatever, you know what direction you have to steer it back to. So when you're setting your sales objective, I'm sure you've heard the term SMART goals a million times over. But in case you haven't, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So that's great, but personally, I like the way that the conceptual selling book lays it out. You want your goal to be product or service related, specific, clear, and concise, tied to a timeline, and usually not connected by and. So it's basically the same, but that last point, not connected by and, is where it deviates from the SMART model, and it really helped me get clear on my sales calls. So the way that the book puts it is that it's so easy to get caught up in maximizing the sales call that you lose focus. And obviously in sales, losing focus can cost you a lot of money, present and future. The book gives the example of someone's sales objective being, I'll sell 20 of these units and secure that service commitment. In the virtual tour business, a bad example of the goal would be, I'll schedule a site visit for an estimate and get them to sign a service agreement. My single goal at the beginning of the phone call is, I will set up a time for an estimate for a virtual tour of their showroom by doing a site visit by the end of this week. I don't want to book them a tour at this point. I don't even know if they want what I have at this point, or if they can even use it, or if they see value in it at all. So there's no reason in trying to divide your focus like that. So that sales objective is related to my service. It's specific, definable, measurable, and it's not connected by and. I'm calling for one reason. So now step 3, we actually write the script. I'm going to run through this dealership specific script that I wrote for this one specific store, and I'll share the one that you can use for about any dealership. And don't worry about writing this down unless that's how you learn. Like I said earlier, I'm going to make like a download link in the description or like an automated email thing that will get you the documents and scripts that I reference in the video. All right, get my acting hat on. Okay, so what I was going to do was I was going to scroll down the script side by side, but my Logitech capture isn't picking it up, so I will try to do it in post-production or maybe follow along with the downloadable link. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But anyway, so I'm just going to run through the script first, and then I'm going to break it down. So in this case, I called the front desk. Hey, how we doing today? I'm doing good. Awesome. This is Warner Nissan, correct? Yes, it is. Great. Is there any way that I could talk to your GM? And so if the front desk asks why, because sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So my name's Raphael, and I'm revamping Larit Chevy's virtual tour here soon, so it's at the highest quality with the new device we just got. So I'm calling around to other dealerships like yours to see if having a virtual tour of the customer area is something that you see as much value in as they did. I'm the founder of Dart Frog, and we do industry-leading virtual tours, and I think that your GM might be interested in what I have to say. So I'd like to speak with somebody about that. So if they say yes, which normally they do, they normally don't have a problem. It's not their problem. They'll connect you with the GM. So they pick up. Hey, it's Raphael. How you doing today? I'm doing good. Yeah, so I'm calling today because I do virtual tours in 3D and for Google Street View, and I'm upgrading Larit Chevy's virtual tour here soon, so it's at the highest quality with the new device we just got. And I'm calling around to other dealerships in the area to see if having a virtual tour of the customer area is something that you see as much value in as they did. I wanted to talk to you guys especially because I noticed that you guys used Google Ads to be the first listing in Maps, and when I Google family car dealerships, you guys come up first. So I think you guys, out of all of them, would do whatever you could to beef up your listing. I'd like to show and tell a little more about it and how it's worked so far. If you have a few minutes, do you think we could do that? Okay, great. Do you have a computer in front of you? All right, I'm going to ask you to go to geocv.com. That is GEOCV. And just let me know when you're there. All right, and you see that button that says Try Live Demo? Click that and tell me when it loads. All right, that's what I want to do for you. industry-leading 3D virtual tours from a local company that's bringing tech from New York City out here to Ohio. And this next part I'm saying it while he's navigating through the tour. I just did a 3D tour for a gym in Upper Sandusky, and it was so well received that within a half hour of me sharing it on Facebook, the owner of the rival gym in Upper messages me and asks if I can do a tour for him. And that's what this new stuff does. It differentiates you until it doesn't. It's quickly becoming the standard for any business, and my goal here is to bring that big city tech to places out here in Ohio and get the early adopters ahead while everyone else is forced to play catch up. But I think the main benefit here is that it lets your showroom do what it's supposed to at any time of the day. I got a question. What's the cool car in your showroom right now? Like what's the one that wows people when they walk in? In this case, like a Nissan, something with a Z. That's a pretty good car. Gives your dealership a little bit of personality, right? Okay, yeah. So what I'm going to do is bring that personality and the mood of that showroom sets, so your potential customers can always see the heart of your dealership and start making lasting impressions on them before they even walk through that door. Plus, you'll be among one of the first dealerships in our area to have a high-quality 3D virtual tour. I want to put you on that top spot while it's still up for grabs and bring out the personality of your showroom and get customers through that door. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? Awesome. So I can get you an estimate pretty quickly. Normally what we do is I drop by, walk around and figure out the square footage, and then give you an estimate. Does that sound like something we could do? Okay. I'm available on Friday at 2. Would that work, or is there a time that works better for you? Okay. And I'll shoot you some more information over email just so we can stay in touch. What's the best email to reach you at? All right, I will send you that info, and I'll be at the dealership on Friday at 2, okay? Thank you so much for your time today. I'll talk to you soon. Have an amazing day. Bye. So that is basically how the phone call went down, minus a little stutter there. That's where the voice comes in, where you have to be an actor. Now, there are very few instances where the front desk won't even at least try to connect you to the decision maker. You might get sent the voicemail. So if you run into one of those, just go to the bolded text where it says if the front desk or decision maker says no. So that's like the bold thing. Oh, and also sometimes if you get connected to GM, sometimes you'll get sent to their voicemail. Always have like a voicemail message ready. You're basically you give the intro, like the intro of who you are and what you're doing, and then just have them call you back. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if they don't answer, just call them again. Okay, so where are we at? So personally, I do not think that this here is necessarily the best script to use. Now for a kid writing his first script, not bad. And the important thing is that this got me an in-person meeting where I could actually close the customer. And I pretty much, all that was in my head. So I pretty much just had to bring those points back when I was talking to him, just to really cement those things in his head. So here's pretty much the breakdown. So starting with the first point of contact, remember that you're calling the front desk, and if you're talking to a receptionist, they do not care why you're calling. It's not their business, so don't info dump stuff about your service right out of the gate. The biggest reason why this script worked was because I let the other person talk. I ask them questions so I know what I have to say to them. So the little thing where I say, "This is Warner Nissan, correct?" Obviously, I know it's Warner Nissan. I know who I called. But it's a question that forces them to respond, and it immediately engages them in the conversation. Because what do you do when you get a telemarketing call and all they do is wait for you to say, "Hello?" And there's an awkward silence. And then the salesperson just runs with it and immediately says, "Hi, my name is blah, 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 calling from blah, blah, blah." Click. Not dealing with it, right? Not because I'm mean, not because I don't respect them. It was because he didn't even ask for my consent to speak, and it just immediately feels like he's talking at me, not with me or to me. And if I do that to a receptionist, they might hang up. So I ask a short question, and then that gives them the chance to speak right away, and they feel heard. That's the most important part. And then after they say yes, I ask, "Is there any way that I could talk to your GM?" And notice how I haven't even said who I am yet or where I'm from. That's because the receptionist does not care. They're not who I'm trying to talk to. They don't know me. Sometimes they'll just connect you with no questions asked. The only reason why I give my introduction of me and my company is if the contact asks me why I'm calling or who I am. Saves a lot of time. So if you get connected with the decision maker, in this case it's the GM, same principle about engaging them in the conversation. If the receptionist does ask who's calling, then you give a brief overview of your name, company, what you want to talk about, and mention a competitor if you can. That's always helpful. And there's one other little secret in that line that I learned from Jordan Belfort. So I want you to think about when you were out in public, at a bar, at a sports game, and someone waves at you or comes up to you and says hello. What's the very first thing that runs through your mind? Who is this person? Where do I know this person from? Literally happened to my uncle at a wedding I just went to. This guy comes up to my uncle, old guy, he's just real happy to see him. He's like, "Hey, Dave, how's it going?" And my uncle, without skipping a beat, just goes, "Hey, buddy, how have we been?" They talked for like 3 minutes, and as soon as the guy was far enough away, my uncle just looks all of us at the table, and he's like, "I have no idea who that was," and we all laughed about it. Same thing happened, went out like last weekend, someone at a bar recognized me, or they thought they did, but I'm like, we recognize each other. We know each other's names, though. It's crazy. Because if there's one thing that embarrasses people the most, it's not remembering someone who comes up to you and says hi because they actually know you. It feels rude. With that being said, notice how I don't say, "My name is Raphael. I'm from Dart Frog." I say, "Hey, it's Raphael." Like, it's Raphael. Like, don't you remember me? And so after I say that, deep in the subconscious, he's like, "Raphael. Where do I know Raphael from? Who is Raphael?" So now, I don't know this guy. I just know that he's the GM of the store. But those 3 little words can carry you far in getting that person engaged in the conversation. But my actual engaging question is still, how are you doing today? Way the Wolf talks about that line, and there's a huge difference between the phrases, "How's it going?" and "How are you doing today?" "How's it going?" is the equivalent of "hi," and the way Jordan puts it is, this is my greeting. I don't really give a damn how your day is actually going, but saying it like, "How you doing today?" correctly communicates that, hey, I actually care how your day's going, what's up. Now, the only thing I might do differently in this part of the script is change, "Hey, it's Raphael. How are you doing today?" with, "Hey, it's Raphael. Is this," insert the name of the person that the receptionist told you they'd connect you with, just to make sure, because their assistant will pick it up. I don't know, but it's always good just to make sure, again, so you're not just like word vomiting all over the wrong person. So, hey, I go, "Hey, it's Raphael. Is this Steve?" And then if they say yes, then you say the awesome, "How you doing today, Steve?" And when you actually get talking to the decision maker, now you're communicating the most while saying the least. Big tip, if you can use a local competitor or any sort of like named example that they might know, use it. That's just a general rule. When you actually get talking to the decision maker, now you're communicating the most while saying the least. Big tip, if you can use a local competitor or any sort of named example that they might know, definitely use it. That's just a general rule. So for example, I'm calling today because I do virtual tours in 3D and for Google Street View, and I'm upgrading Lorette Chevy's virtual tour here soon, so it's at the highest quality with the new device we just got. And I'm calling around to other dealerships to see if having a virtual tour of the customer area is something that you'd see as much value in as they did. So they know a competitor has one, they know I'm talking to their other competitors, and they know why I'm here talking to them. So then you customize the closing sentence to fit them. Then you customize the closing sentence to fit them specifically, so they know you're not just trying to talk to anyone, that you care about them, you care about their business, and you're actually focused on them. And if you can naturally weave a small special detail in this part, it further shows that you want to talk to them specifically. So for example, when I said, "I wanted to talk to you guys especially because I noticed you used Google Ads to be the first listing on maps when I Google Findlay car dealerships. So I think you guys out of all of them would do whatever you could to beef up your listing." Even after that little bit, it feels like you've been talking for a bit. So now you ask a small question to keep them engaged, and that also leads into the next part of the sale. So saying something like, I'd like to show and tell you a little more about it and how it's worked so far. If you have a few minutes, do you think we could do that? And then, if they say yeah, then I ask, do you have a computer in front of you? Now, this do you have a computer in front of you transition into a demo is something that I picked up from a Ty Lopez clip a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly. It's not always the best option, but it typically works. Like, I think there was one time where I got to the decision maker while they were on a walk, so I acknowledged that they were on the walk. I was like, oh, hey, yeah, like, that's nice. Kind of had a little, kind of like a BS conversation with them. Just so that they knew I actually heard them, and not just like, well, just let me sell you something. And then I just asked what time I should call them back, like when they'd be back in their office from their walk, and just call them back. And that one worked out. I believe that was the Columbus job. And once they're looking at an example tour, that's when you can have the pieces of dialogue that are part of the sell. So with this call, you're just lining things up so that you can really strike at the in-person meeting. So don't push too hard. Like, don't push like, all right, well, I'll bring the agreement when I come for the estimate. You might get lucky with a lay down sale, and maybe they'll want to buy right then and there, but never expect that. And so really the only part left is the ending. So notice that when I went to set up the time for the site visit, I didn't ask right away, what's the best day and time for you? I make a very complex decision very simple by setting an initial date. Because at the first stage, it's just a simple yes or no. Does Friday at 2 work? Not, oh, okay, just let me check my calendar for the whole month, And at that point, you kind of run the risk of decision fatigue, or if you're not available, you'd be like, if they say, okay, yeah, I can do Tuesday at 4, and you have something going on, you're just like, no, I can't make it. Is there anything else? And you're just adding more steps. You're wasting more of their time. So you just want to make the things that they have to think about and decide really simple and easy. Again, just a small little thing that can make a huge difference. All right, so I've been talking for a while. Throat's kind of feeling it. But the rest of this should be pretty short and simple. So now basically you have your script, and now you just need to practice it. Now, obviously, when you're calling, you're going to have your script in front of you. But I cannot tell you how much easier it is when you can just recite it without looking, and the script just acts as more of a guide in case you slip up or you forget a keyword or something. Think about it like a computer. I think this is another Jordan Belfort reference. I'm pretty sure he said something like this. Like a computer has RAM and ROM. The ROM is not obviously. Because I had to Google this. It's the permanently stored memory, like the operating system. It never changes. That's just what the computer runs on. And the RAM is temporarily stored information, like the programs, your browser, stuff like that. And what happens when you try to run too many programs and browsers at once? Like try to stream a video, play a game, run multiple Adobe products on a computer. Your computer starts freezing. It might shut down. In general, the computer just doesn't run as smoothly as it should. So this helps explain why memorizing the script is so important. It helps prevent stupid mistakes. You don't have to think twice about speaking words because language is part of your ROM, like whatever your native language is. It's automatic, it's easy. So if you can make the script as close to a part of your ROM as possible where you don't even have to think about it, it frees up like your RAM, like the rest of your brain power, to be able to adjust to changes more easily because the core information comes to you automatically, if that makes sense. It also helps when you're doing like in-person stuff, like where you obviously can't have the script in front of you, but all that stuff is like locked away in your head, so you can just keep bringing that up and then just kind of move forward with the sale. So like when I actually went to do the site visit, I basically just had the bits of the script memorized along with my own information about my business and our pricing. So I can just bring that up when asked about it. But while we were talking, like we had a side conversation about my car because I used to drive a 99 Volkswagen Eurovan with like the VR6 and everything. Really like just unique car, especially for like Northwest Ohio. So we were just shooting the shit about that for a little bit. But I didn't have to worry about like, let's get back to the sale. I'm gonna forget what I have to say, because it was all just like locked in my brain. So it made things a lot easier. So just memorize it however you memorize things. Like I'm terrible at studying, remembering facts, whatever, that kind of stuff. So I literally just had to read each section of the script probably over 100 times total until I did it without messing up. It's the same way how I am really bad at, I was probably would have failed Spanish class, but I memorized an entire like essay, like multiple paragraphs, just by repeating it a million times in my head and like memorizing. So like this word means this sentence is going to follow, and just like each keyword was like a trigger for the next sentence. Just like, I don't know, however your brain works, do that. That was a sidetrack. That wasn't in this original script. But yeah, so basically I wasn't born with a photographic memory, but if you speak something a million times, it's going to stay in your brain. Also, I haven't spoken about tonality yet, and that's the way that's like the way you say certain things, where you put emphasis on the words, all that. I learned best from Jordan Belfort's stuff, like from the book, his videos, just his stuff in general. And I've been talking on this video for way too long, so I will let the master handle it. Just check the description, and I'll link some of his videos that I found was helpful. In addition to the book, definitely recommend it. But in the same way that you can memorize songs easily, once you figure out like the rhythm and the tonality for your script, it becomes like memorizing a song. So like, oh yeah, like this is where the pitch changes, this is where I say this thing a certain way, this is where I kind of get quiet, this is where I pause, look at him, and it just makes it easier to remember than if it was just like some monotone script, because like there are no markers of, like, they're just words. So last thing here, I used to have a bad stuttering problem. It still comes back every now and then, even reading stuff, you even heard it earlier, which obviously stuttering in a sales pitch or any sort of speaking thing, it's awful. So here's what helps me. Aside from memorizing the script and knowing it like the back of my hand, I use a voice. I don't know if some of you guys noticed that, like, when I started to stutter, I kind of changed my voice into something like this, and sometimes I use it when I'm just recording videos to make sure I don't stutter. But like, my normal voice sounds like this. Like, I think this is probably the closest that it is. But if I'm like trying not to stutter, you'll notice that now, like, my voice has a little bit of New York East Coast sounding thing to it. And I don't know the science behind it, but I think it's like that extra microprocessing, like extra microsecond of like extra processing of how I'll say words that keeps me from stuttering as much. Again, it's kind of like acting. All right. So if you made it to the end of the video, God bless you. You're insane, because I have been talking entirely too long. But so this is just one example of how I wrote one sales script for a car dealership. Obviously, I'm writing a lot more than I planned on and recording more than I planned on. So I'll be making separate videos talking about different concepts and dissecting different sales scripts, because I don't want to post hour-long videos. But I can tell you that my next video is going to include the script that landed us a $4,000 contract and some other jobs in a bigger city. The scripting there is more advanced, and it's pretty different from what I showed here, but this is a really good starter point. But before I go, here's some things you can do. Definitely get the 2 books I mentioned, these boys, Way of the Wolf and The New Conceptual Selling. I'll put links to the books. I don't know if I can do the Amazon affiliate thing, but I'll probably do that if I can. If you want them new, or you want the Kindle version if they have them. But if you're like me and you want to save a couple of bucks and you like physical books, I definitely go to thriftbooks.com, because they always have like ridiculously low prices on good books. Way of the Wolf's a little newer, so they might not have it, but Conceptual Selling I had to get for a class, and I got that for Thrift Books. I'll link that site at the description also. So also, obviously, I'll be putting out more videos with more information. But if there's anything specific that you want me to go over, or you guys need help with more in depth on anything, just comment, email, DM, just get a hold of me, and I will help you out as much as I can. So I look forward to making the next video with that big old script, and I hope this really helped you guys out. Just let me know. And thank you for continuing to support the channel. It means a lot. See you later.